Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ariel and this series is called Lessons by Ari, where I get vulnerable with you guys and share my past experiences, and if you've been through it too, we could laugh together or we could cry together, or if you haven't experienced it, you can learn from my experience and then make an informed decision going forward. So today I want to talk to you guys about student loan debt. I feel like we haven't spoken in a long time. The last time I made a video about student loan debt was a long time ago, and I'll have the link somewhere up above or down below if you want to go ahead and check out this video. But I have some exciting news. I have paid off over $100,000 in student loan debt. I feel like a huge weight has been lifted off of my shoulders. I remember when I first started this journey and I was like, I can't do this. I cannot do this. And I was so stressed. So it just feels so good to finally have most of my student loans paid off. I have about $20,000 left, but that's chump change compared to the $100,000 that I just paid off. And I want to update you guys about some helpful strategies once you are kind of in the thick of paying off your student loans. My first video is very helpful if you're just starting out, you don't know where to start, and you kind of want to get the ball rolling, but it's a little bit different when you're in the thick of it or you already have that foundation set in terms of how you're going to tackle the student loans. So here are some updated tips, 5 of them, on paying off your student loan debt that helped me pay off $100,000 worth of student loans in less than 3 years. So the first tip, which is the same tip that I have in my previous video, is to set a budget. I repeat, set a budget. You really need to know and understand what your fixed expenses are versus what your variable expenses are, and how much you have in your budget, how much room you have in your budget to go ahead and pay down those student loans. In addition to setting a budget, I would highly recommend setting up a debt payoff strategy. So there are 4 different debt payoff strategies, which I will have on the screen here. You can check the links down below to look up each debt payoff strategy. I personally like the zero-based budgeting just because I like to know where every single cent of my paycheck is going. So before that paycheck even hits, I already know where the money is going. It doesn't allow me room to say, oh, I have like $500, I could just spend it however I want. Every single cent is accounted for. And usually when I do my budget, I'm not as rigid with it in the sense of every single cent has to go exactly where I have designated it. I have certain buckets. I even have a fun money bucket. So sometimes if I go over, say for example, my groceries, or I go over dining out category, I'll pull some money from different places to kind of make up for it. But I stick to that budget to make sure that I'm paying off my student loans. And one thing that I never pull from is my student loan budget. So no matter hell or high water, that money is getting paid off. So say for example, I set $2,000 to pay off my student loans. I'm going to pay $200,000 on my student loans. Everywhere else, every other monies can move around, but that's one thing that I have been disciplined about. Is like, I have to pay this amount every single month, and I've done so every single month, and also increased the amount with raises, with life changes like me moving back home, allowing me for a bigger amount or a bigger portion to go for student loans. I've been disciplined in that, and I would highly recommend. So the second tip that I would recommend is to also develop a student loan payoff strategy. So there are 2 main ones that I'm aware of: the avalanche and the I'm drawing a blank here, the avalanche and the snowball method. So I specifically prefer the avalanche method because I like the fact that you're paying the highest interest first. A lot of people like the snowball method because it offers that sense of gratification of, yay, like I paid down a student loan bill, or I paid off another debt bill and it allows them to keep going. I'm not really that type of person. Like, I don't care. I want what's gonna go to the highest interest rate so that I'm not paying additional interest. And I'm kind of disciplined in the way that I will keep going regardless of if I feel like I'm up against a huge mountain that I have to climb. I'll still keep going. The snowball method just never worked for me, but you have to know you and know which one works for you so that it allows you to keep going as you progress on and paying off your student loans. Because it's great that you started, but to continue on and not get distracted and not say, you know what, like, I'm tired of this, I deserve a little break, for you to keep climbing, I would highly recommend developing a student loan payoff strategy that works best for you so that you can keep going and keep pushing forward. So the third tip that I would recommend is to look for a community. Look for people who are also paying off student loans. So when I started my journey, I used to go to every friend, family member, anyone. The topic of student loans will always come up for me because that's all I cared about. As soon as I graduated law school, my #1 priority was paying off my student loans. So when I was talking to anyone, I would say, look, these student loans, it's predatory. Like, everybody would hear me complain and they got tired of it. A lot of my friends, although they also have student loan debt, they're not as concerned, some of them, with the student loan debt. They're kind of taking it slowly. They're saying, they take the position like, oh, well, I'm gonna be paying it off forever. I'm not gonna let it stop my life. I'm gonna still buy a house. I'm gonna still live my life. And I just really didn't take that position. So I really needed to look for people who also took my position, where they wanted to get down the debt as quickly as possible. They were obsessed with student loans. They looked up student loan financial videos, and I still do that. And they also just became so involved in paying off those loans and just sharing information. I really needed that community, and that helped me to keep going forward. So anytime that I paid off a student loan amount, I would just hop on to either Facebook, there's Reddit, there's a whole bunch of other support groups that you can look up and look into. I would just post it real quick, like, I just paid this much towards my student loans, and there will be somebody who's congratulating me. There's someone who's like, yes, we got this, keep going. And it really helped my psyche in continuing to pay off the student loans. And I'm pretty sure it also helped my family and friends, so that I stopped complaining to them and I just kind of shared my frustration with other people who had that same frustration. So building that community made us strong together as a unit, and it helped me progress forward as I continued to pay off my student loans. The fourth tip that I would actually recommend is to look into refinancing options. So before student loan interest got paused, the federal ones anyway, I was actually looking into refinancing my student loans. A lot of the rates were about 6-7%, and I thought at the time I could get a lower rate, and I actually was going to refinance my student loans. Since the pause, I haven't had to do that, and the remainder of the student loan debt is about sitting at average 3.5%, so I don't plan on refinancing. However, if your debt is a little bit larger than mine, as the pause gets kind of canceled out or we restart accruing interest, you might want to look at the different loan providers that offer perhaps a lower rate than what's being offered by the federal government. So there are a whole bunch of student loan providers that actually allow you to look up what your interest rate will be without putting a hard inquiry on your credit report. So I've done it numerous times because there were a lot of times where we didn't know whether the pause was going to stop or start. I don't know, whichever one where the interest is going to start accruing again. We didn't know when that was going to be, so I always was prepped for it because they were like, okay, well, in March or in April or whenever it's going to start back. So the month before, I would just go onto a student loan, a loan provider site, and I would see like what my interest rate was, what it's quoting, and I'd be like, all right, I'm gonna keep that in my head. That interest rate was good for a month, and I'm gonna wait and see what the federal government does. Luckily, they kept on pushing it back and back, but if they didn't push it back, I definitely would have refinanced, and I highly recommend that for you guys if you have a really high interest rate as well as a really high debt, because interest capitalization, to my knowledge, is still going on. It's real. If you don't know what it is, I'll have a definition on the screen here. Look into it, because that will kill you. Interest capitalization will kill you. And if you have a lower interest rate, it'll allow you to pay off your student loans a little bit quicker. So the fifth tip that I would say and recommend is to be patient. Be patient. I didn't listen. I didn't take my own advice. I remember when I started out, I would be checking that student loan site every single day like the number was gonna go down. I don't know why, but like I just kept on checking it, kept on checking it. Even when I made a payment, I just kept on, like I kept looking at it. I have since stopped making payments. I have the money actually sitting in a high yield savings account. But back in the day, when it first started, the interest was paused. I did pay, and I would just go on the next day, like, how much did it bring it down? How much did it bring it down? I would be like researching how much do I have to pay it off in 4 years? How much do I have to pay it off in 3 years? Like, I had so much anxiety by doing that, because I would just wake up researching, like looking up numbers, crunching numbers, trying to figure it out, and it is not healthy. Live your life. Live your life and be patient and give yourself that grace. You didn't accumulate all those student loans in like 6 months, so you're not going to be able to pay off the student loans in 6 months. And honestly, this system is kind of rigged against us, so it is going to take you a while, and that's okay. That's okay. And when you pay off, when you make a large payoff, you can treat yourself a little bit. Like, don't be so like, I have to keep on going, I have to keep on going, I have to keep on going, because you will burn yourself out with paying off these student loans, and it's not healthy for your mental health, and you'll never be able to get out of that cycle. And not never, but it will be so much harder. So have grace and be patient with yourself. All right, guys, so that wraps up this video. I hope you find these tips helpful. Let me know in the comments if you have any additional tips that you want to add that helped you on your journey towards paying off student loans. And if you like this content, please like it down below and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you guys next time.